Let's talk about the philosophy of UNESCO. Now you say, keep a humble spirit and humble heart. I'm trying to. Pray for me to keep a humble heart, because so many dum-dums, day in and day out, it's just nonstop. What is the philosophy and purpose of UNESCO? And why is this such an important globalism textbook? Well, let's consider that this guy, in these same Royal Society circles of Bertrand Russell and everyone else that we've talked about many, many times in these talks, is the father of the term transhumanism. He says, I believe in transhumanism. Once there are enough people who can truly say that, the human species will be on the threshold of a new kind of existence, as different from ours as ours is from that of Peking Man, a notorious fake, by the way. Peking Man is completely fake. It will at last be consciously fulfilling its true destiny. Julian Huxley, Bottles for New Wine. So we have the brother, the gay bro, G-H-E-Y, gay, just like P-H-A-T, fat, bro of Julian. Of Aldous. So we cover Brave New World. Basics. Everybody ought to know about that one. You read it in high school. I can't figure out if there's a Brave New World, even though in high school I had to read Brave New World. It's a fiction book, dummy. It's a fiction book. You're an idiot. So UNESCO is the cultural arm of propaganda for the United Nations. It's basic bitch 101 understanding of this realm of geopolitics, that the Rockefellers and the Rockefeller Foundation is who donated the land for the United Nations. That's who helped set it up. It's in their authorized biography by Collier and Horowitz, entire chapters on the United Nations. Duh. It's mainline history. Quigley covers it too. So in order, if you're going to have that, you got to control culture. What have we been talking about for a long time here? Culture creation, culture control. Yeah, that's what this book's about. And this is not just about America and controlling culture in America through Hollywood. This is global culture, controlling the culture globally through the United Nations propaganda arm known as UNESCO. So he begins by laying out the foundations of this idea. And he says we're going to have to use propaganda. He says this is a global control of culture. And we want to combat ignorance. And we want to combat ignorance with liberty, equality, and fraternity. Where have we heard that before? Oh, that's the Masonic dictum of the French Revolution. Oh, well, it just happens to be the dictum and basis of the idea of UNESCO, and also the revolutionary philosophy of the Enlightenment. That's because it's straight out of the Lodge. And he says that we want to combat liberty, equality, fraternity against the idea of the inequality of men and races. Now, let's pay attention to that. The inequality of men and races, because Julian's going to say a completely contradictory thing as we move through the book concerning the inequality of races and the liberty, equality, fraternity Masonic dictum that he has. And this is going to prove to you, to the dum-dums that constantly tell me that the Huxleys are good guys, right? They're good because they were part of like the hallucinogen revolution. They were doing LSDMT before anybody, man. They were good, dude. Even though Terrence McKenna says to not have babies and kill yourself for the earth, he's good, dude. It's a lie. He's a liar. That's what's going on here. Julian Huxley and Aldous Huxley are shitty, elite, pseudo-elite liars. They hate you. And they say they hate you. Because guess what? There's going to be a whole section about dysgenics in this book. Now, you've heard me talk about that. You thought that was a dumb conspiracy theory. What's in this book? Morals, he says, are going to have to be combated with new morals. Every one of these guys, all the way back to Bertrand Russell and H.G. Wells, they all say the same thing. Once again, all of the basic 10 Commandment dogmas of globalism are all going to be present in this clown. He says we need to have greater control because we need to institute global collectivism. So the UNESCO organization will be the propaganda arm of the UN for culture. It will spread a weaponized culture. Within 2 pages, he's told us this. And it will attempt to control the arts globally. And not just to control the arts. One thing that's fascinating, he says, is that, men need a tradition and they need a body of art and culture to pass down. He says, so one way that we can destroy people groups and nation states, because this is actually a book against nation states, and now I don't have a problem criticizing the nation state. We've talked about the Byzantine Symphonia many times, but his reason for criticizing the nation state is not because he genuinely wants to have peace among men. It's because he wants to radically depopulate the whole earth. That's why, and he says it in the book. He says what we need to do is construct, he actually says this, construct a global culture. So the social engineers literally have the idea of, since men like their people group and their nation state and their heritage, we need to obliterate that and construct one that's global. And then we can control the world. Blofeld, mad scientist, evil genius plot. Except they're not that smart. These people literally are not that smart. People say, Alex Jones says, folks, they've got a 275,000 IQ. No, they don't. This guy contradicts himself within a few pages in this stupid book. They're not that smart. They're crafty, they recruit people and steal people's inventions and ideas, but that doesn't make you smart. All right, so he goes on to say, the basics here is neutrality. Science is neutral. No, it's not. But that's the basis of this nonsense. Since science is neutral, we're going to approach the UNESCO organization and science and the arts from the vantage point of the assumption of scientific neutrality. And he says that history is a dialectic between the one and the many. Oh, wow. You've heard me say that, haven't you, many times? Yeah, but what's his solution? An atheistic, humanistic resolution to the one and the many problem. So he says the religions are all they've all failed because they're all particular. Buddhism, Islam, Roman Catholicism, Protestants, Unitarianism, Judaism, blah, 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 blah. They are all fragments of mankind's overall perspective on the beyond, on the perennial philosophy. Hey, wait a minute. What's that other book that Aldous wrote? The Perennial Philosophy. So the Masonic philosophy here and the perennial philosophy of Aldous Huxley, it's the same idea. What was that pagan guy saying? There's a skeletal divine nature outlining basic principle behind all religions, and they're all just masks that the gods wear. That's called Freemasonry, bruh. And what's it based on? The false assumption of scientific neutrality. Why is that? Well, because of science. Because the only reliable way to have knowledge of the world is the scientific method. Really. That can be critiqued in 1 minute. The scientific method cannot justify the scientific method. Therefore, it itself is a dogmatic religious presupposition. But, of course, Julian says, don't worry, I'm here to free you from dogma. This book is full of dogmas, but he's here to free you from dogmas. It reminds me of the language of Albert Pike in Morals and Dogma, where he says that the message of Masonry is freedom from all dogmas. Here's my 800-page book on the dogmas you must believe, by the way, under oath. Double think, mind control. Now he says races don't really matter, but guess what? Eugenics is true. And since eugenics is true, and since races don't really matter, the best way to approach this is not to pick one race. Now, how many times I've been telling you the Fabians have a different approach to this, and the single triumphant race idea that doesn't matter anymore. What they want to do is say we need to pick the top percentile from each race and kill everybody else. That's the plan. It's not exalt my Teutonic knight, my Viking powers. I am Thor. Loki Thor. No. You are being manipulated by a stupid, archaic revival primitivism that he says would come. He says promote primitivism, promote the archaic revival, indigenous cultures of all traditions. Promote that, because that will actually turn people into dum-dums who can be manipulated. And as you saw from yesterday's debate, logic doesn't really work anymore, does it, when we go down that route? What's the basis of all this? Evolutionary progress. What is that defined as? What is evolutionary progress? Define evolution. Remember, this is supposed to be scientific. What is it? It is an all-encompassing perspective of everything under the aegis, purview, and guise of evolutionary progress. Everything in life is participating in evolutionary progress. Oh, except the ideas of everything participating in evolutionary progress. That itself is not part of evolutionary progress, because that's our grounding assumption that we have to have. But we'll give Julian the benefit of the doubt here. And so everything is part of flux and evolution, and therefore we're moving to a world government. It's just naturally evolving that way. See? That's literally his argument. That's literally the argument here. Why is progress necessitating a global government? Because everything is going into a global government. Why is that progress? Because it's evolution. Why is that evolutionary progress? Because everything is moving to being global. The wheel of the horse goes round and round, round and round. Fallacies are just things that people make up. They're not real. That's why you're a retard, because you think fallacies aren't real. If fallacies aren't real, you can't reason. What is the definition of evolution? It is a broad sense in which every historical processes and everything in history is part of change. We're going to talk about change. Change. Everything's under change. Everything's changing. Just believe in change. Barack H. Obama said, believe in change. Yeah. Slogans for the dum-dums. What is the purpose of UNESCO in promoting the evolutionary humanistic philosophy? That's what he titles it. It's the evolutionary philosophy of secular humanism. And what is that? Well, it's first and foremost population control. It's a shocker, surprise. And who makes up the elite in this perspective here? Why, it's all the people in his circles. The Royal Society. Shocker again, right? And what is the purpose of this? Well, to inculcate a new religion, essentially. Even though it's neutral and science, it's a new religion that's open to New Age beliefs, to spirituality. But a spirituality that's not dogmatic. Well, is it a dogma that the New Age spirituality of the UN and Julian Huxley is non-dogmatic? Yes. Is that a contradiction? No. Why? Because logical laws and fallacies are just things that people bring out of their hat, man. They just bring it out of their ass, man. Raise your IQs. You're too low IQ. All you low IQ people, raise your IQs now. Raise them. Meditate. Raise IQ now. What is evolution? It's a cumulative conscious process. Whoa, Terrence McKenna here. By the way, these guys were tripping acid before anybody else was tripping acid, right? It was Tavistock guys, Huxley, Hollywood people. They were hanging out with Hollywood people, and they were tripping acid before the hippies were. So this guy was like, tripping, man. Tripping balls, dog. So shocker, he came to the revelation. Whoa, shocker, that all things are one and everything's moving towards one and we're all just in an evolutionary process, man. Why do you think these idiots all come to the same philosophy if it's not inspired by the same spirit? It is, obviously. And they talk about like aliens and occult beings. He doesn't talk about aliens in this. By the way, the UN is very open to aliens and entities, of course. Well, what is evolution? Again, can you please define this thing? Because it's so elastic. We saw in the analyses of Bertrand Russell, it's used in like 50,000 different ways, that we don't actually have a real definition of what evolution. Oh, it's just change and development. So anything that changes and develops is evolution? Yeah, man. What does it mean? Oh, he says tools. The fact that tools came to be. So the existence of a tool. So in other words, this is like the most extreme version of confirmation bias, where everything that exists confirms the theory of evolution. The existence of the arising of a tool is proof of evolution. Biology and mutations are proofs of evolution, even though there's all kinds of mutations that are not beneficial. Like half of a pp, millions of years of half of a pp. What is that? How is that beneficial? Oh, and then it develops into the pp, and then that just happens to be the vagina that develops. How are those mutations? How is a fourth of an eye beneficial? Oh, that's not right, of course. But we're not going to worry about that right now, because the real proof of evolution is everything, because everything is evolution. You see, just total nonsense. Literal, total New Age nonsense that if anybody else was saying this would be laughed at. If I were to come on here and say, my view is proved by everything and everything moving, you would be like, who the F is this idiot? He's an idiot. But when guys with authority, officials from the UN, from the Royal Society, from the families of the elite, when they say it, well, throw out the logic. He said it. He's important. He's an important man. He's got business suit on. He's important. What do we need to do? Speed up evolution. Exactly. I told you that. I told you, because Bertrand Russell, Kessler goes to the machine. They say we got to grasp evolution and apply pressure from above and pressure from below. Speed up the evolutionary process to cause a jump, and then we'll leap into the transhuman future. Not any of you dum-dums out there, by the way. You're all the dum-dums that believe this is for you. No. Us and our families. That's who it's for, in their mind. He says we need to enact controlled eugenics right now. This is the most pressing, most important issue, and everybody's got to die. Literally everybody except for like the top few percentile. Why? Because if we don't, what do they all say? What do we see in all the other books, the Globalism book series books? If we don't stop the low IQ people, we're all going to die. We're all going to be nuked. We're all going to have a cataclysm. Gaia is going to attack us. Mother Earth is going to attack us because we have let the species grow too populous. Even though there's no God, Gaia is going to somehow do this, because Gaia is like a being with intention and will and thought, even though it's not, but it is.